Yeah. All right, all right. Just like she said, I am Joseph Blackman, founder of Vitendo Training Solutions. So, a little bit of background about me. So, I got into the industry about 6-7 years ago, and I was selling heavy equipment to cities. And I noticed one thing that stuck out to me was I would say the information gap from those who are just about to leave the industry to those who are just getting in the industry. And most of you, or most of us, call it the silver tsunami. I don't like saying old, so I say seasoned, right? So the seasoned generation is exiting, and we got the younger generation coming into the industry. And I was blessed to ride with the guy who was probably twice my age. And he showed me pretty much the ropes about the industry, about wastewater, water, streets, and the whole ordeal on the public works utility side. And it was invaluable to me. It was like one of the coolest things because he just spilled his heart out and he gave me all the information he had. And that became my plight, is to help get the information from the knowledge of people, from the people who have it to the people who want it, and through using video training. So today, we're talking about workforce development for the future city. I played football in college, so there's going to be a ton of football analogies. Hopefully you guys can keep up. Anybody heard it? My man, I like it. Thank you. Oof, you never know. Anybody heard of South Dakota State University? Yeah, all right. I played at South Dakota State University. Small school in South Dakota. Time of my life, though. Time of my life. All right, so who knows the guy on the right? Yell out his name. All right, Drew Bledsoe. Perfect. Who knows the guy on the left? Tom Brady. Okay, so we got Drew Bledsoe, we have Tom Brady. So Drew Bledsoe was a starter. He was the man. He was the quarterback. He threw all the passes, scored all the touchdowns. But one day, he got hurt, and in came Tom Brady. So I always say it like this to departments. I say, well, who's your Drew Bledsoe and who's your Tom Brady? Who's the guy that's starting? Who's the guy who gets most of the opportunities, who gets most of the workload, and the guy that's waiting in the wing who could potentially take over that position and not arguably, but evidently be better. I mean, Tom Brady is probably the best football player ever, best quarterback out. I mean, I know you guys are arguing with me on this, but like, Tom Brady's the man. I mean, most people consider him Gisele's ex-husband, but Tom Brady's the man. So, and one thing I learned in college, and I played safety, was that when the starters come out, meaning the backups go in, you're like, let's say I'm second string, right? And the starter goes down. The second stringer, his whole purpose or his whole plight is to make sure there's no drop off on productivity. Meaning the starter goes down, he gets hurt, he's tired, whatever, the second stringer goes in, no drop off on productivity. So I always say, okay, let's say you have a lead operator and he goes down, or he's in Cabo or whatever, he's not there for the day. The person who's supposed to do his work for him, is there going to be any drop off? And think about it, if there is drop off, then why? Is this something that the starter knows that the second stringer doesn't know? Which is my main plight, is getting that knowledge to the second stringer. But is there something that the starter does that the second stringer should be able to do or should learn how to do in that operation? So think about it. Who's your Tom Brady and who's your Drew Bledsoe? Because, again, we wouldn't know who Tom Brady was or is until Drew Bledsoe went down. So we shouldn't wait for that moment. All right, so this right here is called a depth chart, right? And every athlete knows we live and die by the depth chart. Anybody coach sports in here? All right, we got a coach. What sport? Baseball? Okay, so you got a first string shortstop, second string shortstop, second stringer's not there. You know the third kid to put in there, right? Yeah. Okay, so the depth chart, it lets you know who is next up. So think about in your department, who is next in line? It might be somebody from a different department who might want to cross-train. So if your first stringer goes down, you kind of want to know who can be next in line, again, with no noticeable drop-off that can take that position. Because, again, I mean, every fall camp is right before the season starts in college. It's double days. It sucks. It's tough. All you do is run and hit each other. And it's the same people every day. It's not like you get to see any other teams or anybody else. And this depth chart is posted inside the hallway of the locker room every day. So you walk past, if you're third string, you'll see your name up there. If you see second, first, you'll see your name on there. So think about it, what your depth chart is, and who's in position to take the starter's job if the starter goes down, or if the starter starts to slack. Let's be honest, sometimes starters get complacent, sometimes we get comfortable. There's usually somebody waiting in the wing to take that position to be able to give you that certain output. All right, so I am a war history fanatic. World War I, World War II area. Haven't really got to the Civil War yet, but in all the movies that I watched, whether it's like if they're like German or Russian, there's always a moment in the movie where you got like the generals and they're all standing at this huge table. I mean, you guys probably seen it before. It's this huge table and they got little figurines on the table, right? And they're moving the figurines around. They're trying to figure out what position to put their soldiers in to optimize their battle stance. So like, what's your wish list on getting, I mean, every city I've talked to, understaffed, right? Everybody's looking to hire. Everybody needs positions to fill. Actually, quick question. Who here has heard of the Public Works podcast? Anybody? No? Really? Okay. So I'm the host of the Public Works podcast. Chelsea McCluskey, I had her on the show. She's the best. But what I do is I got, 220 plus episodes. And I interview you, like, again, I would probably find all of you at one point in your career, and I would ask you to be on the podcast. Like, my thing is, I feel like everybody has their own story to tell. I feel like the more we promote the industry, the more we can get youngsters into it. And then also, I highlight the person behind the position. I'm not trying to get some juicy story or, like, get anybody caught up on anything. It's mainly like, what do you do for work? What do you do to service the community? Like, how cool is the job that you do? And I let you guys just, talk your head off and talk about what the cool things that you do. And it's so much fun because guys will get back to me and say, man, I posted that show on my personal Facebook and now like my aunt in Arkansas knows what I do finally, which is pretty cool. But that lets you know that the podcast allows me to have these conversations, to know that most cities are understaffed. Most of the seasoned generation, there's really no succession plan to pass it on to the younger generation, meaning the application, the knowledge of what you guys do. There's a lot of nuance that you learn over time that doesn't necessarily get passed on. I always say Michael Jordan would probably be a terrible basketball coach because he's so good, and somebody that's coming in, Michael Jordan can't even fathom being at that level. So think about what you could potentially get across to the next generation from that lead operator. All right, so we all know the generations, right? Baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. One thing I wanted to point out from here is interesting because they put the values. So the baby boomers are 57 to 76 years old, and they value motivated by position and prestige, strong work ethic, and want stability. Gen X, they value self-sufficient, resourceful, and value freedom. Millennials, which are 25 to 40 years old, their self-confidence, values flexibility, work-life balance is important. And then Gen Z, they're tolerant of others, risk-averse, less trusting of authority. It's so interesting because when they start to label people, and that's one thing, my beef with labels. Like, labels kind of tell you more what you aren't than what you are. And I like to say most of us value a lot of what every other generation values. So whenever I see things like this, I go, okay, well, A, who's writing it? Like, where's this coming from? And B, like, is it really true? So think about what generations you have within your departments. And like it says, Gen Z, they're less trusting of authority. I know some boomers who hate authority. I know some Gen Xers that they want a work-life balance also, like the millennials do. So think about, like, if there's different generations in your department, what do they value? Kind of, instead of the stick and the carrot, what can you do to get someone motivated? And then also, if you can measure it, you can manage it. Most of you guys heard that before. But think about what has been done. It's just like in football. If we know that there's, 35 periods of practice, and each period is 5 minutes long, and that we allocate 10 periods to defense, and our defense is terrible in the first 4 games, maybe we need to add a couple more periods of defense, right? Maybe we need to practice more on that instead of just doing more conditioning at the end of practice, because nobody likes conditioning. But it's one of those things. If you measure, you can manage it. Think about in your department what you can measure, what KPIs, key performance indicators, that you can put on the board and go, this is our activity, and here's the output that's derived from that activity. All right, so who knows or who's been seeing all that's been going on with Colorado? It's kind of died off a little bit, but remember Colorado started the college football season, prime, right, all that. There's a lot of hoopla around it. So one thing I liked about when Prime, when he took the head coaching job, he literally got in there and cleaned house. Like, 70 transfers? Just imagine coming into your department and saying, all right, out of 10 of you guys, 9 of you are fired, and I'm bringing in 9 of my own people. Like, I get it. We can't do that in our jobs. But the concept of, he was saying, okay, and he even said in the interview that, like, he didn't, the guys who stuck around, he respected more, because when they heard that message and said, hey, all these guys are coming in from these bigger schools, they might take my position, but I'm going to stick it out and fight anyway. He said he respected them more. So are there instances in your department where you can't clean house, but you can say, hey, guys, like, if we're going to start hiring, there's only so many positions here. What are we going to do to increase the output to make sure everybody stays on staff? And then also, you don't have to do this alone. Like, and again, with the podcast, talking to so many people in the industry, these associations are so great because you get to talk to each other. Like on the private side, what I came from, where I'm at now, is that competitors don't talk to each other. Like, you guys are all here, you work for cities, utilities, public works departments, and you can talk to each other, which is super cool. Like, that's invaluable. But, like, there's no reason to go it alone, no reason to think that you have to do this all by yourself. All right, so the Combine. Most of you know about the NFL Combine. And if you don't know what the NFL Combine is, it's a couple of days worth of where they get all the top athletes in the country from college. They put them in, they take them to a stadium and they run them through a whole bunch of drills. And if you know Tom Brady's backstory, Tom Brady was terrible at the Combine, terrible. Like, couldn't run, could barely bench press. He could throw a little bit, of course, he played at Michigan, but like, he didn't test well at the Combine. So you guys have SOPs for pretty much, for a lot of the certain operations within your departments. So why not develop an SOP for talent? Why not look into your department and go, if Billy's my main operator, and I found Billy, he was at a different city and he was doing this type of work, which isn't related to pretreatment or fog, can you repeat that? Can you replicate that? Can you find a way to say, okay, if I got Billy this way, let me go and find Bobby in the same way? So how can you develop an SOP for talent? Because at the Combine, they run you through all these drills. A lot of the drills do help out, like the 40 time, the vertical jump, the catching drills. They show you if a guy has some aptitude or not. But there's other little ways you can find talent just by developing a plan. And it doesn't have to take forever. Like, you could take maybe 2 hours out of the month and go, okay, think of all your department, who's your, prime operator, and they go, okay, this is why this guy ticks the way he does. Maybe I need to find that. A lot of companies, what they do is they say, hey, they will ask that guy, do you know anybody that you think would fit well here? Because usually, like minds attract, and the same type of guys roll with each other. So think about how to develop an SOP for talent. All right, who knows this guy? Okay, so this is Vilfredo Pareto. You probably know Pareto's law, or better, the 80-20 rule. Everybody know the 80-20 or the 20-80 rule? Okay, so the foundation of the 80-20 rule is that 80% of your output usually comes from 20% of your input. 20% of your activity usually derives 80% of your output. Some guys say, 80% of my headaches come from 20% of my operators. Like I always say, 80% of the arguments with my wife come from 20% of my conversation with food with my wife. If we can't figure the food out, there we go. So think about what 20% of output you can do within your department, within your operations, that derives 80% of the output. A lot of our work nowadays is emails. But think about that 20% of the day that you can block off that's quiet time that could yield 80% of results over time throughout that month, throughout that week. And a lot of times it's not that you have to be on top of every email. Sometimes it's just closing the door. Sometimes it's, like I feel like the closed door policy or the open door policy can kind of lead you down a bad path because you're always stopping. And then say, if you're, to get back into the swing of the mean, like if you break a train of thought or if you break an activity, it can take 5 to 7 minutes to get back into that flow state. Like let's say you're cranking through emails, you're putting bids together and stuff, somebody interrupts you, you think you're really back to work, but really it takes 5 minutes to get back into the swing of things. So think about how to get that 80% out of that 20% of your day. All right, so who knows this guy? All right, so this is Mike Singletary. So Mike Singletary, probably one of the best linebackers out there. And what Mike Singletary was hired to be the San Francisco 49ers head coach some years ago. And everybody was like super happy. Like, oh, Mike Singletary, he's going to be the head coach of the Niners. It's going to be great because everybody liked him as a player. But how many of us know that sometimes the best player, the best operator doesn't make the best manager? Or doesn't make the best leader? Usually the skill set to be like, again, Michael Jordan will be a terrible basketball coach because he's in such a space that doesn't even translate to be able to manage people. Managing a product or managing a workflow is so much different than managing human beings. Like human beings are so complex. And so I call it Mike Singletary syndrome, that we promote the best operator. He's been here for the longest. Boom, he's a manager. And a lot of guys can't relate to him because, again, sometimes it's bad habits, sometimes it's just bad personal skills, sometimes it's just the lack of wanting to be a good manager and like, hey, I'm just the best operator, I don't need to be the best manager. Or like, hey, I'm the oldest here and people should just listen to me because I'm the oldest. But Mike Singletary, it crashed and burned. Like it didn't work out. The Niners didn't do well. The Mike Singletary project didn't pan out because he could not connect with the players. Such a great player. Everybody loved him. He was fierce. He used to hit people with all his might. And he's like that rough and gruff of that generation of that era that everybody likes. But he couldn't connect with the younger generation. So is there ever an instance in your department or in your city where it's like, oh, that's Mike Singletary. He's great, but he just doesn't connect. All right, does anybody know what any of these logos are? Okay, so if you're from the MLB, right, they have a farm league. So they have the AAA, AA, and single A. And you feed each player into the next level to make it to the MLB. And I say it like this, and I've seen this on the private side, which paints a great picture, is that if you have, like the Rangers, they won the championship or the World Series, but they have AAA teams. And what happens is if there's a guy who you feel you can't get the right reps at the MLB level, you put him in AAA. Or if there's a guy who's like really good, but he's hurt and he's coming off of rehab and he won't be able to give you solid reps on the MLB squad, you put him in AAA so he can get his reps. I mean, we all know like there's workhorses and there's racehorses and then there's show ponies. Show ponies are the ones that just got kids on their back and they go around in a circle at the carnival, right? And the racehorses, they want to get out there and run. I mean, how many racehorses do you have in your department who want to do work, who want to take on more workload, but they're just going in circles with little kids on their back, hypothetically. And think about how you can send them down to AA, AAA, and give them activities, give them opportunities to shine, to feel like they're important, instead of just having them on the main team and not being able to really do something. Sometimes they got to cross-train and get sent to a different department, or sometimes you might have to switch it up to make sure they get that type of workload. So the minor league concept, again, I've seen this work plenty of times on the minor side, on the private side, to where a guy can go and do a different task. He can feel empowered. He can be that racehorse that he wants to be instead of just that show pony going in circles. All right, all the sailors in the house, anybody ever sailed a sailboat? Okay, we got some sailors. All right. So the concept is called tacking. Tacking means you go one direction for a little bit, and then you look up and you go, oh, am I going the right direction? Yes or no? Okay. No? Okay, let me switch directions. You go a little bit more, you look up. Am I going the right direction? No? Okay, you put your head down, you go a little bit more. So think about how we can do that in our lives and our careers. there's times in my calendar that I set to where, okay, there's no work being done. I'm not doing podcast interviews. I'm not out doing any demonstrations or anything like that. But I look and see, okay, the last, maybe 6 weeks, what did I do? How did I end up here? Because not everybody woke up and just ended up in this room. You had to come yesterday, you got the hotel, you ended up, you walked down here, and now you're here, right? Think about how you got here. And so if there's ever a moment where you're like, man, I don't even, like what they say, you drive to work for 45 minutes, and most of us don't even remember the drive, kind of on autopilot. So think about how many times we've done that week to week, month to month, year to year, being on autopilot. I used to always say to the OGs at work, because they'll say, oh, I've been doing this for 22 years. I know everything. And I say, well, have you really been doing it for 22 years? Or did you do 1 year 22 times? How many times have we went through a year and like, man, I didn't really get better? Sometimes college felt like that, where you're like, oh man, this is year 4. What was year 2 and 3 like? I don't even remember that. So think about what you could do to say, okay, let me draw a line in the sand. Let me press pause. Let me look at the last 6, 8 weeks, 2-3 months and go, okay, I'm going in the right direction. Like, these are my goals. I'm going towards my goals versus, going off track. All right, so reverse engineering. And on the sales side of things, you always have to know your numbers. Like, let's say you're selling solar, right? You knock 100 doors a day. 100 doors a day leads to 10 meetings, and 10 meetings leads to 1 sale. So in order to get 2 sales, what do? You knock on 200 doors. Pretty much impossible, but that's the foundation of backing into the numbers, or reverse engineering. So when you're thinking of your succession planning, if there's a KPI that you've already set, back into those numbers. Figure out what you did to get to that position. Figure out what activities yielded X amount of results, that yielded X amount of results, that got you to the location where you're at now. And think about how we got here. There's nothing better when I'm with the guys and, I go to their morning rodeo, and the supervisor will ask, like, okay, how do we get here? What are we doing today? We're doing this and this and this. Okay, well, didn't we do that last week? Okay, well, did we do that the week before? Okay, well, shouldn't we be done with that? And he's not trying to be mean to the guys, but he's asking them, like, okay, how did we get here? Like, what have we been doing to get to the position where we're at today? So think about backing into the numbers, how you got to where you're at today. And then, again, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. All right, so it's always the best, feedback. I take feedback with a grain of salt. I know at a lot of these events they have, like a feedback sheet to where you can say, hey, this is what I liked about it. This is what I didn't like about it. This is what I didn't like about that guy talking about football for 40 minutes. And it'll allow you to see what really happened, or what people really felt about it. So don't be afraid to put out like a feedback sheet. Let's say there's 8 guys in your department. Say anonymously, write down or type an email or whatever, like, and get some type of feedback. And yes, we know you got to chew the meat, spit out the bones. Not every time the feedback you get is something you want to take and internalize, but it's usually good data. Every company, it seems like whenever you buy something online, like whether it's Amazon or Walmart.com, you always get or even you take your car to the auto shop or anywhere, they send you a feedback form. How did we do? It's like, dude, I got 20 emails from you already. I don't, stop. Just, if you stop that, you wouldn't have to ask me how you did. But what they're doing is they're trying to figure out, how they're doing. And whether if they're going in the right direction or not. So think about how you can throw out a form to say, hey, guys, are we going in the right direction? How is my supervision going? Do you guys like it? You want me to change it? Because, again, if we can't measure it, we can't manage it. All right, one thing I subscribe to is the 1% better every day rule. And I always equate it this way. So the healthy user bias, they say an apple a day does what? Correct. So an apple a day just keeps the doctor away. But if you dig deeper into it, what they're really saying is that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but it's really being the type of person that's willing to do something every day over time keeps the doctor away. If you do something for yourself healthy every day over time, you're going to keep the doctor away. And that's where that 1% better comes into play. If every day you you added like 1 or 2 compliments to your morning rodeo. Say, hey guys, I like the way you guys are dressed today. And then at the end of the day, you say, hey guys, I like the way you guys buttoned up the trucks at the end of the day today. Like, if you do that over time, that compounds. That starts to get better and better and better. And you'd be surprised, people react to that. And people also react to the negative. Or people also react to indifference. Like sometimes, I mean, indifference is worse than negativity. Like sometimes I'd rather you yell at me than just like ignore me, you know? So think about what it feels like every day over time for something positive to happen to you and how that can keep you going forward. And then also 1% worse every day. They say over the course of a year, if you're 1% better every day, that's 30% better. If you're 1% worse, that's 0.03 worse every day. So it starts to compound over time. All right. Well, that is it for me. Again, my name is Joseph, Vitendo Training Solutions. If you don't know what Vitendo does, what I do is I go from city to city and I put your best practices on video. If you've ever been to YouTube to watch a video on how to operate or fix something you own, that's what I come out and do for the city. Most of the younger generation, we love to watch video. It's hard for us to read like 30-page SOP PDFs, so I put best practices on video, and I have a blast doing it. Any questions?
What was the name of the podcast?
The Public Works Podcast. Yeah, check it out. And if anybody wants to be on the podcast, reach out to me. We'll get you on the show. All right. All right. Thank you. The after lunch crowd's fun.